Yes, good morning, everybody, and hello there to our listeners and audience. I'm pleased to have Ryan Dillon of CSP Networks on. He's here in Orange County with us, a wonderful business owner. He and his partner are both colleagues and friends of mine. I'm delighted to have Ryan on board, and I'd love for him to tell us a little bit about his journey with CSP, even before he got into CSP, and what he's doing, how integrity plays a role in their company, in their employees' lives, and in the broader life of what he does every day with his family. Ryan Dillon, thank you for being on with Power of Integrity. We really look forward to this conversation with you.
Absolutely, Ralph. Thanks for having me. Good morning to you. Great to be here. Yeah, Ryan Dillon, CSP Networks. We've been a local managed IT service provider for about 20 years now, celebrating 20 years this year, believe it or not. Um,
Wow.
I know, crazy, right? I've been here specifically directly for about 17 of those 20 years. My partner Mike started the company, and then I came along just shortly after that. It's been a fantastic journey. Certainly, integrity, like you said, has played a big part in that for us to get to this 20-year mark. Um, we predominantly in infrastructure management, data storage, cybersecurity, third-party outsourced IT management, these types of things. In the last 5 to 7 years, we've spent a lot of time focused on manufacturers. Our vertical has kind of fallen into this manufacturing realm. It's a space that I just really thoroughly enjoy being in. We've really tried to support this Made in America initiative,
Yes.
and really get behind some of the stuff that the governments have been investing in and trying to support, and bring back some of this Made in America initiative. So it's lent itself really well for us for our growth and for our strategic direction. I just thoroughly enjoy working with these local business owners, trying to keep jobs in California, trying to keep manufacturing in California, in the U.S. if we can, certainly, but as a fifth generation Californian, I'm all about trying to keep this state moving forward in a positive direction. And so, working with these some first, some second, some third generation business owners, being able to bring technology solutions for these folks is just something I really enjoy doing. The technology part of it, it's constantly changing, but watching and helping business owners try to thrive and be competitive, that just is something that doesn't really change much, and I enjoy that about it. Right? It's just the continual grind, and we know what to do to be successful.
Yeah, and how many businesses could operate without having managed IT, either internal or external? Like it's an impracticality, if not an impossibility, to be operating. I know it's essential for us, and we lean on our managed IT vendor regularly, if not moment to moment. It seems how our systems are running.
Oh, especially today. I mean, especially from the security perspective. I mean, we have on a weekly basis clients who are being threatened, right? And so it comes via email phishing attacks. That's kind of the number one thing these days. But the threat actors are becoming more and more sophisticated every day, and so we have to, we lean heavily upon the security vendors and the solutions that we represent. Of course, we're kind of a VAR in that space, value added reseller. So, we bring these large, national or international security solutions providers to the table, and then we represent our clients locally with that technology. Um, Continuing to educate them on what's necessary to stay secure, how to store that data. And now, of course, with especially for about 2/3 of my manufacturing customers who do some in some way, shape, or form are part of the defense industrial base. They're some way related to the DoD. And those contracts, the regulatory requirements that are coming specifically in what's called CMMC, is just extremely challenging to deploy and manage the tool set that's necessary to be able to achieve that compliance. So um, educating and guiding them on understanding that and putting together, what I really love is trying to put together those solutions that work for the small business. Most of my customers are in when we define the small and medium sized business, we kind of focus on that the medium. So 150 to 200 users is where we like to be. We have some smaller, but generally that 150 space lends itself to a real reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationship. So
Yes.
Yeah,
And then when you speak about security, the integrity of your security has got to be paramount. Um,
it does.
right?
It
Not
does.
just the systems, but the people, right? Because I always think about the employees at any of these organizations that have access to our secure data. Absent their level of integrity, all the systems in the world are compromised.
It's so true. It really is, right? And I mean, there's I think almost at least once a month now, I feel like, if not every other month, I'm getting some kind of letter in the mail from somebody that I do business with that's saying, "Hey, unfortunately, we had a security breach." And you know, it's one of those things where it's an unfortunate situation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, anybody on the inside of that organization did something wrong. It's just that the threat actors, the people on the outside, they're becoming so sophisticated at what they do because it's $1 trillion a year business, right? I mean, there's
Big money.
people there's more people that want to get on that side of the fence because they get paid way better than the guys on the other side defending against these attacks, right?
Yes.
So it's unfortunate that the economics work out that way, but it is what it is. And so working with a partner that that you can hold accountable and that you can trust and who has their moral and ethical compass pointed in the right direction, certainly extremely important, right?
Yeah. And the true north of integrity is critical. Maybe tell us how it plays a role beyond security with your employees, your business, the principle of integrity, and how you see it playing a role in your working relationships with even the folks that you serve.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when it comes to when I think about integrity and the definition of that and what that means to me, I think the true definition is something around adherence to your moral and ethical standards, and obviously that translates into honesty. For me, one of the biggest things that it translates into is like accountability, right? Like I really believe that I have to be accountable to my employees, number one, and then of course number two to my clients and everybody that's in that space. Where in the way that we sit, I've got, probably 55 or 60, CFOs, CEOs, VPs that I effectively report to, right? So,
Yeah, as clients, right?
yeah,
As
as
clients of
clients.
yours. Yes.
And then underneath those people, right, they've got, hundreds of employees across that stack. And so we have to, we really have to shine and show that we are people with, with honesty and accountability as our backbone, and that has to really start with the employees, right? My employees have to be a direct reflection of myself and my partner and everything that we stand for, especially in this business. You can't run a business for 20 years and be shady. At least not in my industry. We've seen some of our competitors fall specifically for that reason. So,
No.
I really believe that especially with my employees, being accountable to them, being a great mentor to them and showing them and leading by example, right? We have to be leading by example every opportunity we get, because it just translates from the employees to the clients. And from the clients, what we see, of course, is the best thing they can give us is a referral. And so, we want them to be able to say to their business partners, their colleagues, et cetera, "Hey, talk with these guys over at CSP. I've known this guy for a long time. They're very honest. They're very accountable. When they say they're going to do something, they do it. They follow up, et cetera." So I think that's really important.
Yes. And when you talk about accountability, what echoes for me is the concept of seeing things through to completion and seeing them through to completion regardless of the cost, emotional or financial cost on us to see it through to completion. We may have misassessed things in the beginning, but seeing it through to completion is critical for accountability to be there, right?
Absolutely, especially in our business, because no two systems are the same, right? Every single client's infrastructure is so vastly different. And so no matter all the things that we've seen and done and changed and fixed and renovated, et cetera, every new client presents a completely unique set of challenges and opportunities there. So we have to as we're going through something, we're making recommendations, we're making assumptions based on things we see, and then we might be wrong about something, right? And so we have to always be coming from that point of kind of like, listen, we're being honest with what we see right now, but hey, we read that wrong. We're going to come back, reevaluate that, and get the customer to understand that, we're always going to approach it from that perspective. We've always got their best interest in mind, always going to be charting that path forward. Um, but it will be that honesty and that accountability that you can rely upon, because everything, as we look up under this rock or open this hood and take a look at it, we might say, oh gosh, we had no idea that's what we were going to see there, right? So stick with us. We'll reevaluate, we'll come up with a new plan for you guys. Don't worry, we'll get you out of this. But it certainly presents a unique set of challenges every time.
Yes. Yeah, maybe you can share a time where you saw the counterparty you were acting with that didn't have integrity and how that changed the outcome, probably
Oh,
for the worse, I suspicion. Is there an example that you can give our audience, maybe clues them in on
oh,
what to look for well in advance? Kind of
oh, I
OPE, other people's experiences here.
Yeah, right. Oh, I certainly can, from a customer that we had, actually a client, without going into too much detail, because I don't want to, of course, give too much away, that I might. I think I could speak pretty freely about it.
Yeah, we don't have to breach
Yeah,
any
we had
confidence.
a
It's
yep,
just, yeah, in generalities, if you
yep.
can
We had
share
a
with the
client
audience.
who came to us shortly before COVID, and the um, the executive team, I thought, was someone who was a group that I thought was pretty well versed in the industry. And right as COVID hit, they were in a good position, and they received a large sum of money, over $50 million, from the NIH to develop a COVID test. And then they piled on a bunch of another $50+ million in private, funding and some venture backing.
Wow.
And it seemed like the stars were aligning for them and everything was growing great. It wasn't but maybe 9, 12 months into that I started to see some issues, we'll call it, right? And their integrity really came into question for me. And that was an issue for me, because that, let's call it, misinformation and some of the misleading information that was coming out publicly did not match what myself and my team was feeling internally. And it was putting everybody in a very unique situation, one that nobody was comfortable in, because we become really an extension of these people's business, right? So their employees, their direct
You're
employees,
in bed with them literally with
we
their
are,
business. I mean,
we are.
no one's closer to our business and any business than they manage IT.
It's so true. I mean, sometimes the employees don't even realize that we're a third party, right? When you've got 150 or 200 employees and they're given a phone number and an email to send for help desk requests, they're not, sometimes it takes them a while before they even realize, oh, this is a third party vendor. This isn't like our IT department over there in Irvine, right?
Right.
So what happens, of course, is these employees, they hear rumors on their side, and then my employees are privy to other information that they have to hold confidential, and it puts them in a very uncomfortable situation. And we don't like that. We don't like our employees to feel uncomfortable that they're having to lie or mislead their direct customer, because they've been given information that they're not supposed to share, and then these employees are calling and asking questions. I mean, you know how this goes, the rumor mill, right?
Yes.
And so it took some time, and I had to literally confront the executive team about what was going on there. And long story short, that company didn't make it. They blew through all that capital.
$100 million.
They they left almost 200 employees without paychecks for the last couple weeks, and then they went for complete bankruptcy. The CEO fled the country, and the CFO was already in another country, so he took off. It was just an awful situation, and I can't help but look back at that situation and realize that what happened there was that the executive team got a little bit scared about some things not going quite right for them. And instead of being honest about that and explaining to their employees and their suppliers what was going on, what the challenges were going to be, and how they could really take an opportunity to get everybody on board. I mean, this was COVID, right? So you were doing something big. People that were joining this company, they felt like they were part of the initiative to combat COVID and save the world, so to speak, right? I remember 2020 and 2021, anything to do with that situation that you could be involved in, people were running to it. So, they missed that opportunity because they were not honest and they weren't transparent and open with their organization. And I think that had they shifted that focus there, they would have been unbelievably successful. They could have really owned a market, and their technology had some really great second and third use cases that they could have brought to market outside of COVID tests. So I just look at that and I just think, man, you guys missed such a huge opportunity because you just weren't willing to be honest and open with these people because you were scared of a little bit of failure. And certainly we've all been in that spot before, right?
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Where they're like, oh gosh, I'm a little bit scared to admit this right now. But I think, the old cliche saying, the truth will set you free. They should have just really been truthful in that moment. So that sticks out to me. That'll stick with me for a long time because it wasn't just, oh, they lost some business or they lost a customer or two. They went flat out bankrupt, completely gone, don't even exist today. So
And harm those employees.
yeah,
Oh,
right. I mean, the executive team, these were all people well off and well funded from
yeah.
previous six, events. And this was people's livelihoods. And they were, they got on board for a reason. And it was just sad to see multiple states. They had operations in 3 or 4 different states, and then also Canada and the UK, and then even in parts of Asia. So just a really, really awful situation, especially because it was a 10, 12-year-old company leading up to this that had a nice little business going. And they just, they had this opportunity to parlay into something really massive. And it was because of just really failed, unethical, dishonest leadership that did that to them.
No.
Yeah.
Amazing how the thread of integrity weaves a garment or fabric that lasts, and the lack of it pretty much brings it down
It's
and
so
tears it
true,
apart.
right? It's so
Right?
true. These short term kind of wins or gains for just this long-term absolute catastrophe and disruption. It's just not worth it.
That's not worth it.
Right. And that's true. I think that's true in a lot of service-based businesses like ours, where you're creating a relationship with the customer. We're not a transactional sale, right? This is something that people, like we talked about earlier, people get in bed with us, and we're together for years. I mean, I've had customers
Yes.
since the beginning. We've had 15, 16-year-old customers. So um, you can't sweep stuff under the rug, Yeah.
And not expect it to stay there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it has an inordinate capacity to come out from under the rug. Well, Ryan,
Yeah.
maybe shifting gears a little bit. You have a
Yeah.
beautiful bride and Sarah and 2 wonderful daughters. How does integrity play out in the Dillon household?
Oh boy, that's a big one, right? So true. I do. I have 2 daughters, almost 16 and 13, who both went back to school today, which is a little bittersweet because I we love summer. It's always so much fun to just get out of your routine. But then, of course, it's nice for them to go back to school because it is nice to get back into a routine at some level, right?
Yes.
Um, and I think that certainly today more than ever, we've learned as parents how important um, being honest and open and as transparent as you can possibly be with your children is. There's so much outside influence coming in to your family, whether you want it or not, by way of school, by way of social media, by way of these friends that they have. And we've been fortunate. Our girls have for the most part really good friends who come from good families, and us parents are all trying to do the same thing. We know that the old BS meter goes off as soon as one of my daughters says, "Oh, but no, everybody's doing it," and you think, "Wait a minute, let me just go ahead and text these parents," and they say, "Well, maybe that's not so true after all, right?" I'm like, "No, I know her parents, and I know they wouldn't say that this is okay with them." So I think that is, it's such an important part of the family dynamic, right? To teach them, what we believe to be morally and ethically correct, why honesty is so important, especially with the way that these kids interact these days. They share everything with each other. They share where they are, they share what they're doing. I mean, at any given moment, they can open up, I think it's Instagram, and they all share their location with each other. So,
Their
we'll go to,
meals, their plate,
oh,
their
it's just,
service,
yeah, I mean, it's
their proofs of life,
it's right. It's just absolutely everything. It just blows my
and
mind
their
because it's so,
360s are probably shared too, so they know exactly their locations.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they have it inside of, I think it's Instagram or Snapchat that my girls use I'm pretty sure it's Instagram, whatever it is, where they, we'll show up to the mall. We went to the Spectrum on Sunday night, right? Do some school shopping. And,
Yes.
um, they just open it up. Oh, so and so's here. So and so's here. Oh, let me text her and tell her, meet me over here,
It
So,
just it's just dawned on me, Ryan, that they have tribe and tribal behavior down better than any generation in modern time.
oh, massively. I mean,
Right? Through
these
that
kids do not,
connectivity, they have tribe.
they run in a tribe. Being alone is not an option for them,
Not
which
right. Yeah,
on one hand,
they've
I
got a
think
village already going on around them.
they do. And I think that on one hand, that's really great, right? Because I think we've seen the effects of people who aren't part of a tribe, unfortunately, and
Oh, yes.
that's had a huge
Yeah,
impact on society,
loneliness
right?
and all the consequences of being alone, feeling alone and
Yeah,
desperate.
right.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. And so I think that, in terms of, you know, watching that play out, it's ever so important to make sure that, you're teaching them about being honest and being transparent, because what they'll do is they'll want to make an excuse for why they can't see somebody or do something because they're picking to do something with somebody else, but then they don't think through the 5 steps of, oh, well, that person that you said no to actually sees where you're at right now and realizes that you might have told them a little lie about where you're going to be.
Yes.
So those are, I think, really important things to get them to understand that, listen, it's okay to be transparent with your friends, learn how to, prioritize what is important to you, and understand that, honesty is super important. Occasion, of course, there comes into that whole layer of being too honest with somebody and hurting their feelings. And 13, 14, 16, 17-year-old girls, they are, extremely emotional, and they can get their feelings hurt very easily. um, but nonetheless, it's really just important to practice that. And I think, when you look upstream kind of to the level of Sarah and I, my wife, we, sometimes we have to really watch what we're doing as well, right? As parents, you have to be honest, and you have to lead by example with these children. But then sometimes you don't want to be too honest, because you're just not ready to bring that type of information to a 15-year-old girl, right? So um, it's been a challenge, but it's certainly been one that I think that, as parents, we've learned as we go. There's just no playbook to being a parent, right? You don't go to the owner's manual and
No.
open up, let's see, let's go to a 15-year-old girl. Let's see, what's the next step
And
here,
not
right?
every 15-year-old is the same, female or male or otherwise, right?
No, no. I'm fortunate enough to have, my wife is one of 11 children. I have 37 nieces and nephews, and I have, my first, I guess you would call it, grand niece or nephew. What do you call that?
Yeah.
Second niece or nephew?
One removed, something
One
like
removed.
that.
Yeah, that's on his or her way. Don't know what that's going to be yet, but um, so I have the benefit of having lots of nephews, so that, I get both ends of the spectrum there. And then, certainly, lots of nieces where, my brothers and sisters-in-laws, we can sit down and, talk about the challenges of what it's like to raise these kids. We locally, Sarah and I are the oldest set of parents, so our kids are the oldest local kids, the Southern California kids. But there's some older ones on the East Coast and in Colorado. So we've been able to, work through some of the challenges and see what might be coming down the pipe for us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
certainly very
Again,
important.
that tribe, even the parent tribe is a good thing. So
It
Ryan,
is, right?
maybe,
Big
yeah,
time.
maybe tell us in our closing minutes, speak to the young entrepreneurs listening in and what you would leave them with the notion of integrity and how they should embroider and weave that into their business and personal lives.
Oh, certainly. Um, I think one of the biggest things that someone told me a long time ago that stuck with me is that, you know, somebody is always watching. Just remember that somebody is always watching or listening, however that, plays into you. And it is so important. I've kept that with me for 25 years, I think, was since someone told me that. It was one of my mentors when I was at Beckman Coulter. When I was going through college, I worked for Beckman and they put me through it, and I had a fantastic mentor there. And that has really stuck with me, that just think about that. Someone is always watching or listening. And so that that is going to pay dividends through the rest of your career if you have that if you always lead from and come from that place of being somebody of integrity, being somebody who is sticking to what you believe your moral and ethical standards are, and that you're being accountable and honest with people, because you're going to be put into these situations where you think you can get away with something, and you just never know, right? You just never know who might
Yeah.
be watching or listening. And that's something that's just stuck with me. And I think that when you are in Orange County, California, this is a very, very small place, and you will run into people. You may think that a relationship has ended with somebody, and you will run into that person. I can't tell you how many times we've had someone leave a client and then 2 or 3 years later pop up at a new client, or referred us in somewhere, and how important that is. So
Yeah, an employee and a former at a client leaves and goes to another
yep,
relationship, and lo
yep,
and
and
behold, they're
so
bringing you in. Yeah,
yep,
I mean, you're mentioning something that's really interesting because it was an old timer in my profession when I was a young timer, and he had said about honesty and integrity is when no one's watching and still doing the right thing. And yet there is always someone watching, and that someone watching is ourselves, right?
exactly,
Are
exactly.
we compromising our own integrity by thinking no one's watching and we only have to answer to them? We have to, many times it's answering to ourselves that holds us to the highest levels of integrity.
It's so absolutely true, right? Like, you are your own, you could be your own worst enemy, right? You could be, and you could also be your greatest proponent, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Greatest ally and proponent.
right, yeah. So
Well, it's been a wonderful time. We've had Ryan Dillon of CSP Networks right here in Irvine, California. Maybe, Ryan, if folks wanted to find out more about CSP Networks, where would they go and how would they get in touch with your organization?
absolutely, you could go straight to cspnetworks.com. Website's there. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, Ryan Dillon, CSP Networks. You'll find me pretty quickly. rdillon at cspnetworks.com. If you want to send me an email, I'm sure you'll be able to find me. And if nothing else, they always know how to find Ralph Adamo, so he will get you straight over to me as fast as he can. I trust, no doubt.
Happy to do it, Ryan. You've been a wonderful, wonderful guest on the power of integrity. You've been a perfect example of integrity, both in your professional and personal lives. It's been a delight to be your friend. It's been a delight to be your advisor, and I'm sure we're going to have more delightful years ahead. Thank you, my
Absolutely.
friend. All the best to you. I will talk soon, I am sure.
All
Bye
right,
for
bud.
now.
Thanks so much. Take care. Great to see you.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc.